poor feeding, this is a violation of rights of prisoners. Unfortunately, in practice, prisoners might not feel empowered enough to speak out on their rights because they feel they are the victim on the other side, or they feel because they did a wrong, they deserve no less, they deserve similar treatment, which should not be the case.
Pregnant women, nursing mothers, and babies are part of the prison population. All lactating mothers in Ghana's prisons are transferred to the baby-friendly unit at Nsawam. Currently, there are 8 nursing mothers, 7 pregnant women, and 10 babies incarcerated in prisons nationwide.
Because they are babies, they have to be fed on infant formula, and then they have to have weaning foods, but there is no provision for them. So they eat from what the mothers are served with. And because we don't have the formulas for those who, the pregnant women who deliver here, when they are weaning, we have to give them this the cocoa that we give to the prisoners for them to just sieve it. There's no milk, but they take it like that.
The protocol to the African Charter specifies that pregnant women, first of all, there must be a respect for their dignity, even if they are in detention. And part of that respect for dignity is such that they must be accorded an environment conducive for their condition, such that if the environment is not conducive and they are hurt as a result, or the baby is hurt as a result, then that is a violation of their fundamental human rights. If they are not available, then a pregnant woman has a choice to be out of incarceration until maybe the safety of the baby is secure.
But what if the crime committed was a first-degree murder?
If you're talking of a woman who has committed a first-degree offense, then for instance, if they have to be kept in maximum prisons and it is such that the conditions are not favorable, then the state or the prison authorities have the obligation to create special measures if it needs a facility to address such special cases.
According to the officer in charge of the Nsawam female prison, women here have no chance of getting pregnant, but they are sentenced during pregnancy. The female camp also told the story of this 80-year-old great-grandmother who can hardly walk or do any activity independently. She is serving 10 years for narcotics and has done 1 year already. Her situation, according to authorities, can only get worse under the current ill-equipped medical facilities. Whereas male inmates get visitors, the story is different from the female prison. Rarely do husbands visit their wives in prison.
We don't know what is actually happening. It seems when the women are in prison, then the men go in for other ladies and then they abandon their wives here.
Many of the inmates at the female and male prisons are not first-time offenders. Of the 9,377 convicted prisoners, 531, representing 5.7%, are prisoners with 2 or more previous convictions, while 1,275, representing 13.6%, had 1 previous conviction. Is the prison a crime university or correctional facility? What accounts for this high incidence of repeat offense?
For some people, they've become so immune and, should I say, unaffected by reward systems and punishment systems.
So, this is the pathetic story of jailbirds in Ghana. But the jailers share similar deplorable living conditions. These housing facilities for officers say it all. They live in poorly ventilated and crammed up rooms that accommodates about 6 families or more. This has compelled some to send their children away to live with relatives in other regions. For instance, these uncompleted structures accommodate 10 families in Kofodia. Families, both old and young, have no toilet facilities. They defecate in the bush nearby. These other 2 bathhouses ease the pressure on this bathhouse. RSM Elvis Coley has been in the service for 21 years, and yet this is where he, together with his wife and children, sleep. A dutiful service came with a presidential recognition. Nevertheless, this ladies' room is no different either, with barely a foot space for free movement. This is the scene at the headquarters in Cantonments, Accra.
You are west. As you can see, we live in 10 by 12. My rank as assistant chief officer, which is apart to an inspector in the police, I live in this 10 by 12 with about 4 kids. And in the night, I wish you could see the situation, unbearable.
Accommodation for most of the officers in the northern region is almost comparable to looking for a needle in a sandstorm, and so anything with roofing is good enough for a shelter.
It's a world buried in so much problems for the jailers and their prisoners. But life goes on. In the concluding part report, I cut to the chase, seeking some solutions.
Well, you might think that they deserve all these because they are criminals. But how sure are you? Some of them have not even faced trial. Remember Isaac, who's been in for 17 years. Interestingly, administrators and implementers of Ghana's criminal justice system, including the Attorney General and Inspector General of Police, openly admit to the lapses in the administration of justice, leaving these in the cells for so long. Worse still, that overcrowding situation in the prison speaks ill of a country that professes belief in freedom and justice. In the concluding part, Pete once again cuts the chase, seeking solutions to these problems.
Politicians, including former jailbirds, have promised overhauling the criminal justice system and rescue victims trapped by these unjustified circumstances. And so, we ask what is being done.
The Chief Justice sent 10, 11, 12 judges. So she transferred the high courts or the circuit courts to the prisons. And then they would deal with remand cases. Looking specifically, though, just at the cases of expired warrants.
The Attorney General spearheaded a workshop between her ministry, the Chief Justice Office, this ministry, the IGP and prisons. The purpose of these workshops is to narrow the differences and then to be able to address the challenges that confront us, that bring about the delay in the trials and the congestion in the prisons.
We have two scenarios. One, somebody may be mentally deranged before conviction. Then the other scenario is the person, they get insane whilst in prison. This particular issue came to our notice, and we've directed that it should be sent to Ankafo Psychiatric Hospital, and that has been done.
On addressing the abuse of remand system, Emil Short says Traj will make recommendations to the appropriate authorities and then follow up if no action is taken.
We intend to take some of these cases to court if nothing is done within a reasonable time, you know, to address some of the very grave situations.
Inspector General of Police Paul Tawiakwe, aware of the sometimes unprofessional behavior of his men and women, said training and capacity building is high on his agenda. So, is there light at the end of the tunnel for some of these inmates?
This time, I want us to target a reduction, a real reduction in the number of prisoners and go for that. We've started under the Justice for All program, which is funded by UNDP, of sentencing guidelines for judges. And we've also started guidelines by which prosecutors should prosecute their cases.